Imagine waking up completely alone, no memory of who you are, no idea where you are, with a robot above you telling you that you might have been in a coma. You look around and slowly realize you're on a spaceship in the middle of deep space. The only other people on board? Dead. And when you ask the computer how long it'll take to get back to Earth, it says 11 years. Now here's the real question. What if the fate of every single human being alive depended on what you did next? And what if your only hope of survival came from the most unlikely friendship in the entire universe? Stay with me, because Project Hail Mary is one of those rare films that will leave you staring at the ceiling at 2 and thinking about your own life. Let's break it all down. The movie begins with a man waking up inside a strange medical pod. A robot arm is hovering above him, and the ship's computer is asking him questions.
But the man is terrified because he does not remember anything. He does not know his name. He does not know where he is. He does not know why he is connected to machines. He fights his way out of the pod and stumbles through the ship, searching for help. But the first person he finds is dead. Then he finds another body. Slowly, the truth becomes impossible to ignore. He is alone. The ship's AI, called Mary, tells him his name is Ryland Grace, and he is the only surviving crew member. Grace looks outside a window and finally sees the horrifying reality. He is in deep space. Grace tells Mary to take him back to Earth, but the ship cannot follow that command. When Grace checks the navigation system, he realizes he is not even in the solar system. He is near another star called Tau Ceti, almost 12 light years away. And with the fuel he has left, going home is impossible. As Grace tries to understand what is happening, painful memories begin returning to him. Before all of this, Grace was not an astronaut. He was a middle school science teacher. Back on Earth, everyone was worried about a mysterious space phenomenon called the Petrova Line, a strange infrared trail stretching from the Sun to Venus. At first, people thought it was just a space mystery, but scientists soon realized something terrifying. The sun was getting dimmer. Something was eating its energy. Grace explained to his students that if the sun continued losing energy, Earth would begin to freeze. Crops would fail, temperatures would drop, and eventually, life on Earth could collapse. He tried to calm the children, telling them the world's best scientists were working on a solution. But deep down, nobody knew how to stop it. One day, a powerful scientist named Ava Stratt came to Grace's school. She had read an old paper he wrote about alien life possibly surviving without water. Grace did not want to help because that paper had ruined his career, but Eva revealed that the strange particles from the Petrova Line had survived near the sun. That should have been impossible. So Grace joined the research team. Inside a secure lab, he studied the dark particles. They moved. They reacted. They absorbed energy. After many tests, Grace discovered they were not just particles. They were living alien microorganisms. The scientists named them astrophage. Astrophage feed on stellar energy, travel through space, and reproduce using carbon dioxide. That is why they fly from the sun to Venus. They eat energy from the sun, then go to Venus to multiply. Grace's discovery explains the Petrova Line, but it also reveals a bigger disaster. The sun is not the only star being attacked. Stars all across the nearby galaxy are dimming, except one. Tau Ceti. For some unknown reason, Tau Ceti has astrophage, but it is not dying. Humanity's last hope is to send a spaceship there, discover what is protecting that star, and send the answer back to Earth. That mission is called Project Hail Mary, because it is humanity's final desperate chance. But there is one terrible problem. The ship only has enough fuel for a one-way trip. The astronauts will reach Tau Ceti, complete the mission, send the results home in probes, and die in space. Back in the present, Grace finally understands why he is there. His crewmates died during the journey, and now Earth's survival depends only on him. He mourns the dead astronauts, thanks them for their sacrifice, and releases their bodies into space. From that moment, Grace accepts the mission. He must save Earth alone. When the Hail Mary reaches Tau Ceti, Grace notices something strange. There is a Petrova Line here too, but the star is still healthy. Something in this system is stopping the astrophage. Then Mary detects another object nearby. Grace looks outside and sees something impossible. Another spaceship. At first, he panics. The strange ship follows him wherever he goes. Then it sends an object toward the Hail Mary. Grace fears it is a bomb, but it simply bounces off the ship. When the alien ship sends another object more slowly, Grace puts on a spacesuit and awkwardly goes outside to catch it. Inside, he finds a strange device made from a material he has never seen before. Soon, the alien ship creates a tunnel between both spacecraft. Grace enters carefully and reaches a glass barrier. On the other side, something moves. He jumps back in fear. Then he sees it. an alien creature that looks like a walking rock with multiple limbs. It is terrifying at first, but then Grace realizes the alien is also scared of him. The creature begins copying Grace's movements. When Grace waves, it moves. When Grace makes silly gestures, it copies him. Slowly, fear turns into curiosity. Grace names the alien Rocky. Grace soon discovers that Rocky is blind in the human sense. He does not use eyes. Instead, he senses sound and vibration. Grace begins teaching him numbers, objects, and words. Rocky responds with musical tones, and Grace records them to build a translator. Day by day, they learn to communicate. Then Grace shows Rocky the astrophage. Rocky instantly recognizes it and calls it bad. Grace realizes Rocky's planet is facing the same disaster. Rocky's people also sent a ship to Tau Ceti to find a cure. And just like Grace, Rocky's entire crew died during the journey. Now both of them are alone. 2 survivors. 2 dying worlds. 1 mission. Rocky tells Grace he is happy he is no longer alone, and that moment changes everything. They are not enemies. They are not just scientists. They are friends. Together, Grace and Rocky begin studying Tau Ceti. Grace learns that Rocky is an incredible engineer. He can build almost anything using a strange supermaterial that Grace names xenonite. But Rocky's species does not understand radiation, and Grace realizes radiation killed Rocky's crew. Rocky only survived because he had been near astrophage, which protected him. The 2 friends decide they need to collect fresh astrophage samples from a nearby planet where the organisms reproduce. They travel there and name the planet Adrian. Grace collects samples and compares them to the astrophage from Earth. But something does not make sense. The astrophage come to Adrian, but they are not increasing in number. Something is killing them. Then Grace finds the answer. There is another microscopic life form in the clouds of Adrian. A predator, a tiny organism that eats astrophage. This is why Tau Ceti is surviving. The predator keeps the astrophage population under control before they can drain the star. Grace names the predator Talmiba. If they can bring Talmiba back to Earth and Rocky's planet, both stars can be saved. But collecting it is extremely dangerous. The Talmiba lives deep in Adrian's atmosphere, and the Hail Mary was never designed to fly that low. Rocky builds a long chain and collector, almost like a fishing line, while Grace practices piloting the ship. During this time, Rocky learns that Grace does not have enough fuel to return home. Grace says he has accepted that he will die in space, but Rocky refuses to accept it. He offers to share his own fuel so Grace can go back to Earth. Grace breaks down crying, because the truth is, he never really made peace with dying. Rocky could not save his own crew, but he refuses to lose Grace too. Finally, they begin a dangerous collection mission. Grace flies the Hail Mary close to Adrian's atmosphere, while Rocky lowers the collector into the clouds. The plan works, but then the ship drops too low. Heat warning scream. The hull begins to fail. Debris breaks off and slams into Grace during a spacewalk. Rocky begs him to abandon the sample and try again later, but Grace knows there may not be another chance. He risks his life, grabs the collector, cuts the tangled line, and barely makes it back inside. The ship escapes, but it is badly damaged. Fuel is leaking, the ship spins out of control, and Grace is knocked unconscious. Then Rocky does something heroic. He leaves his protective environment and enters Grace's ship, even though the conditions are dangerous for him. He drags Grace to the medical bay and saves his life. But Rocky nearly dies doing it. When Grace wakes up, he finds Rocky unconscious in his bubble. Grace is heartbroken, but he continues the mission. He tests the Talmiba and confirms it kills astrophage. They found the cure. After days of waiting, Rocky finally wakes up. Grace is overjoyed and hugs him. The 2 friends celebrate because now both of their worlds have hope. Rocky helps Grace repair the Hail Mary, and soon it is time to separate. Grace will return to Earth, and Rocky will return to his planet. They say an emotional goodbye in the tunnel, using their silly gestures one last time. Their ships disconnect and fly in opposite directions. For the first time, Grace is going home. But then Mary detects contamination. Grace checks the Talmiba containers and discovers a horrifying problem. The Talmiba has eaten through the xenonite container. That means Rocky's ship, which is made of xenonite, is in danger. If the Talmiba escapes on Rocky's ship, it will destroy his fuel and leave him stranded forever. Grace calculates his options. He can continue home to Earth, or he can turn around and save Rocky. He cannot do both. This is the moment that proves Grace has changed. At the start, he was forced onto the mission because he was afraid to sacrifice himself. But now, he willingly chooses to save his friend. Grace loads all his research recordings and Talmiba samples into probes and sends them toward Earth. Humanity will still get the cure. Then he turns the Hail Mary around. Days later, Grace finds Rocky's ship and pounds desperately on the window. Rocky appears, and the 2 friends reunite. Years later, the probes reach Earth. Ava receives the data, the videos, and the cure. Earth is already freezing, but now humanity finally has a way to save the sun. Rocky's planet is saved too. Grace survives there in a special habitat built for him. He learns Rocky's language and becomes part of their world, and in the most beautiful twist, Grace becomes what he always was deep down, a teacher, only now his students are alien children. One day, Rocky tells Grace that his people have built a ship that can take him back to Earth. Grace thinks about it, but he has found a new home, a new purpose, and a true friend. Project Hail Mary is, at its core, a story about what people do when everything is on the line. Grace didn't volunteer for this mission. He was drugged and put on the ship against his will. He had no memory of why he was there. And yet, given the chance, he chose to see it through. And then he chose something even harder: connection over survival. The friendship between Grace and Rocky is what makes this film unforgettable. Two lonely beings from impossibly different worlds, learning to trust each other across a glass barrier in the middle of deep space. If that doesn't move you, nothing will. And that's Project Hail Mary. One of the best sci-fi films in years, and one of the most quietly hopeful stories about what humanity and maybe all thinking beings could be at their best.